Hello, hello, hello. Right, well, we're going to be talking about water regulators and water reservoirs. Reason why you'll need one is simply because when you're running a reflux still, you need to keep that water, called the cooling water, quite precise. And if someone flushes the toilet in your house, they wash their hands, have a shower, put the dishwasher on, washing machine, just use the tap sink or outside garden water, anything. That will lower your pressure, that will lower the water flow rate to your still, and that will then mean the column's not being cooled as much, and that will then allow more product through without being refluxed, and it will get really annoying. So what a water flow regulator does, now this is one from Still Spirits. You'll attach this side to the tap, and it will fill full water. Once it gets to a certain point, this little float in here, which is a ball cock, same thing as in your toilet or water system, that will raise up. And once it gets to a certain level, it naturally closes off the valve, so no more water can come in. Now inside here is a water pump powered by a 12-volt DC, and that will then pump water up through here, through this needle valve, which is really handy, and that will then go out to your still. So then you can then turn more and less water. When the water then goes down, it will then release, or the ball valve will lower down and allow water come through, and it just keeps doing that. So then if someone then does use your water, you've got maybe a litre or so, I'm not actually sure how much this holds, but you've got a bit of water and a bit of time there. It's really handy. Got a little hole here, you can pour the plug out when you're not using it to empty the water out. Now this is quite nice. It's nice and neat and tidy, easy to use. What I don't like about it is the plastic in. I've always been paranoid of hitting that or knocking it, smashing it. The output's metal and it's barbed as well. The input isn't, and that's quite handy. But the way I find with these are that the same thing as the T500 or the alembic pothead, the reflux column, not reflux. God, I can't brain today. With all the stuff, basically, you put the tube on, and you've either got to then leave it for the rest of its life with the cable coiled up or tube coiled up, or and constantly having to do Jubilee clips, or you put your own quick release valve on there, and that's what I do. They're a pain, but yeah, it's quite expensive for what it is, quite small, and I had to build my own one because I've split my T500, so now the product condenser and the reflux condenser are two separate units, so it needs two separate water supplies. So I had to build my own. And this is what I built. This is a 10-litre bucket. It's got a quick release for water in, and it's got a quick release water out for the reflux condenser and then the product condenser down there. And then you've got two needle valves. You've got a DC plug here, or socket for your plugging in your power supply, and you've got a on-off switch. Nice and simple. And this then powers, say, everything. Now you can, when you build your own, you can buy a ball cock valve. This from UK might be £8-9. Buy it from AliExpress or other places, and you talk about £3 or £4. It works quite well. Then you can buy your quick release valve, and that can go on there to allow the water in. Your water pump. I personally use a 12-volt water pump. I just find it's easier, and it's easy to get the power supplies from anywhere. This is from one of my old routers. It's a 12-volt 1.5 amp. You can use anything really. Be warned though that they often they say how many litres of water it can pump per minute or per hour, but it doesn't necessarily tell you how much pressure it can give. What I mean by that is you've obviously got this down here, the T500 plug might be here, or connector might be here, but that could go up even higher. So it's got to pump that water up. And I've seen some pretty big pumps that could not pump up. They can go long, but they can't pump up. That's the problem. This one states it has a volume lift of 5 meters, sorry, which I haven't tried that, but it works for 2. That's for sure. You need a needle valve. Now, if you bought the T500 or the alembic head, they usually come with the T5 with the regulator. You can buy from anywhere, but I really like the ones that Still Spirits give out. You can get some little adapters then converted to a barb on the back. This has got the same size barb as the pump. I bought that delivery so I can use a simple tube. And then finally you've got your quick release valve. Very quick, very easy. These are for air compressors, for your power drills and things like that with garages. While it isn't food grade, I don't care, because obviously this water is not for human consumption, it's just purely for cooling. I like this because obviously I know it's rated for high pressure air, And if high pressure air can be sealed by this, I know low pressure water can be easily. It's plastic, so it's light, and it's relatively cheap. Again, these were from AliExpress. I'm not going to put links down in the bottom because by the time you read this or see this video, it could be a week later, a month later, or even 2 years later. And by that point, that probably isn't available. So send me a message and I'll gladly tell you where I got it from. These work really well. And these are all interchangeable. So, as you can see, the ball valve. So then that can then go off to the tap. And that can go off there. And the same thing can go on the output. And they're really, really good. Okay, so going to, one last thing. What I'd recommend is pipe-wise for your internal tubes, don't use PVC like this, because you can see it's quite rigid. And if you're having to bend it around tight corners in your container, whatever you're using, they can kink and then it bends and then it's game over for that tube. So I'd strongly recommend a silicone tube, because with silicone tube, you can literally screw it up into a little ball and then it will just spring back out again. Now, silicone tube is a little bit more expensive. Buy it from China. Don't buy it from the UK, because all the UK suppliers I've seen very, very expensive. And then I just built myself a little adapter to my sink so that can go there. And it is literally just plug it in, turn the tap, nice and easy. Everything comes apart. So what I'm going to be doing today, I'm going to be installing it in this. Now, this is a wipe container that had like sterile wipes in for cleaning work surfaces. Got it through my work because they use them and they ran out. So got a nice free container here. I'm just going to install it here. 6-7 litres maybe. So it's a good amount of water. Right, let's go and install it. Right, so the first thing we're going to want to do is drill a hole for this. You want this as high as you can do. So I just need to make sure. Yeah, about. There you go. That's simple. So now I know that I can fill it and it'll work fine. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is install our water flow regulator. Now, you've obviously got to make sure that it doesn't touch the ball, but I'm going to put it here because the idea will be motor will be there, the pump, that will be just above it. And I'm going to install this in the lid like that. Nice and simple. So now we need to drill the hole for the needle valve. Now that could do with being a little tiny bit smaller. Now before I put it back together again, we've now got the power. Now I'm going to be using a little 2.1 little DC. Now I'm going to be soldering this separately. So let's work out where I want it to go. Put that cover over that. So we're not in used. When it's used, I can then plug this in there, and then off, switch it on, it'll start working. So I'm going to go now and get the wiring installed. You can see, quite a simple little thing. I'm going to put some resin over here because a heat shrink won't do. I'll put obviously bits around here. I'm going to put some waterproof resin all around this switch and all around here. There's a little bit in there that I want to cover as well to stop it from being water, or to stop water from getting in there. And we can tighten that right up. One nice little water reservoir and regulator. Now what I often do, so I forget, is then put something like that, just to remind me one way is off and the other way is on, or more water. Right, let's get it over to the sink and give it a test. Let's wire this up. We can turn it on. You can hear water's gushing through. That's great. Plug that in there. This will go off to the still. Let's turn it on. Here we go. That's on maximum. We can dial this down. There we go. A little trickle. You're getting nice control. Up, down, up, down. There we go. And then even if we turn the water off and put this on maximum and unplug the water, well, we've still got plenty of water in here. And this is the whole idea. And let's turn it back on again. You can hear it sealing up. There we go. Nice and simple. Absolutely very simple. Now, let's turn that off. You don't need to put the switch in. You don't need to put a fancy one of these in. You can literally just cut the cable of your power supply and then wind that over to your motor. Just put a bit of tape over it, and that way it turns on when you plug it into the wall. You do not need to do anything as fancy as I have in the slightest. You just don't need to, but this is what I do. Now, bit of a life hack, get yourself one of these. Ideally one that's got rubber on it and is very, very tight. Reason being is when you're trying to adjust these and you're trying to do a minor, if it's say 55 degrees Celsius and you want it to get to 54, you have to do just an absolutely minor tiny movement. And it can be quite difficult. Whereas if you've got one of these stuck on there, it's a lot easier. Look, there. You can then just move this around and you've got very easy freedom, and just a tiny, tiny touch of that can actually move this round smaller than your finger can, with you registering has it moved or has it not. So I always keep one of these pegs on at all times. It makes life a lot easier. There you go. Now don't forget, once you've finished using it, to empty it out, because you do not want this full of water when it's not in use. Certainly what I tend to do is I will then just leave this open like that, wedge something in, maybe even this, and leave it like that for a while just to make sure that everything dries up and it's all good to be put away. All right, well, there you go. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you found it informative and look forward to seeing you again.